Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Bobby from BobbyOnFire.com, and I have with me
John,
John using his great radio voice there.
good afternoon, Bobby.
That's very good. Hey, I got a story for you folks today that I think you'll find entertaining, enlightening. You might be scratching your head saying, "Oh my God, what is the matter with this woman?" But such as it is, this is the best I've got for you. I think you'll enjoy the story. Now I have to drop the f bomb a few times in the story because that's what happened on the fire ground. This is a story that takes place on a large, one of the mega fires, as we call them now. And in order to get someone's attention, sometimes you have to use that depending on your audience. So if that's a little bit more than you want to hear, this is a good time to listen to one of the other stories because there's a lot. There's a lot. Hopefully, none of the others I'm dropping the f bomb, but this one I am. So that's just a heads up. So let me uh, let me start by telling you on the website where there's a picture of my old truck. That's the truck that this story kind of has some relevance to, and and this truck was custom. Well, it was a government truck, but like most fire rigs, sometimes they can get a little customized because people take pride in their trucks, whether it's a fire engine or whether it's a command truck like this one was. People take pride in those trucks and they fix them up. Well, I didn't have a lot of need to fix up my truck and make it, one of these macho big old trucks. However, um, I had the opportunity to get a winch to go on the front bumper for free. It was a free winch. It's always handy to have one, whether you need them or not, because it's insurance. You might need it, or you might need to pull someone else out. I've had to pull people out of rivers with my winch and other trucks. So, anyway, I was offered this free winch. Well, this winch, then when I got it, well, that's not going to fit on there. You need a bumper. You need to, oh, and we'll custom make the bumper to fit the winch, and it'll be custom fitted for the truck. And and then it's like, well, that seems like a lot of trouble. Oh no, it'll be fine. It's going to be really good. Before you knew it, I had this custom made bumper. Oh, and by the way, this custom made bumper, the shop that made it makes all of some movie stars. What's some karate guys? Well, anyway, some some movie star that you would recognize his name if I had a thought in my head here. And so it's going to look really good. So it's going to be a custom made bumper, and I'm like, well, it's not going to be too much, is it? Oh no, it won't be much. Well, then once they make the bumper, well, you got to have it painted. Now it's got to be painted to match the truck. And then this massive bumper was so big that it's too much weight for the front end. You need a lift kit.
Oh,
Yeah, so now I ended up having to get a lift kit on this truck. So this free winch that was really a good deal turned out to be really it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best move, but the truck looked good, you know. So now that's about the truck. Now I am on a. I'm up. At that time, I was working in California. I get sent to Montana for a fire in an unknown location. I won't say where it was, but it was in western Montana, and it was a year that we had lots and lots and lots of fires up there. And it might have been 2002, maybe. And there were so many fires up in the Northwest. I was driving on my way up there. Every time I saw a column of smoke coming up, I started seeing columns of smoke in northern Nevada, and there were columns and large fires from northern Nevada through Idaho, and I had to pass a couple large fires in Montana before I ever got to my fire that I was assigned to. So it was a big year, and because of all those fires, there were no resources available left.
mm,
All the firefighting crews, all the fire engines, all of the helicopters, and everything were assigned to other fires. So I get up to this. I get up to this fire, in western Montana, and I get checked in, and they tell me, well, we've got no resources for you, and we got this giant fire. Now it's still up in the high country, it's up in the wilderness area, but it's moving down towards town. And they said, just don't let the fire get to town. It's like, okay, but I've got no firefighters. It's me, and I had a local guide, a friend of mine. Well, that's all there was. John shaking his head, wondering why
There's no crew?
there's no crews. Oh no, there's no firefighters. There's no fire engines. Don't let the fire get to town.
Bobby, can you get this fire and keep it out of town?
Well, the funny thing was they had a whole overhead team, a whole incident management team assigned to the fire. So there's like 50 people.
What?
But there's no, and they're with the hopes that they'll eventually get the resources. So they're there coming up with good plans. So one of the plans was they gave me, and I worked on this fire for probably 3 weeks, but they said, hey, go out and scout this all out and figure out where we can put some lines when we get the resources. And so I spent a day with my local guide from that station showing me around. And it's like, okay, well, there's a fire, here's roads, there's a ridge top we can use. So I'm coming up with a strategy of where we would fight the fire when I got some resources. So I spent a couple days doing that. And then I was told by the operations section chief, I tell stories sometimes how I'm the operations section chief. Well, this was before I was the ops chief. I was a division supervisor. And so I go to camp after I spent a couple days familiarizing myself with this area. The fire's still up in the high country.
You're driving around checking things out?
I'm driving around, hiking a little bit, getting it
It's all on foot or car?
Yeah, foot or my truck. And I'm drawing
the
maps.
Truck with the good bumper.
Yes. That great bumper, very important. That bumper puts out fires, I'm telling you. So I go back to camp, and they said, okay, look, some of these line locations, could you use some forestry equipment? In other words, they mean bulldozers. They mean harvesters. These are the machines that grab a tree and cut it off, and they can grab a couple trees and cut them off and drop them, so that instead of, you still need someone to put the line into the soil. You still need a hand crew to come in, but they can do a lot of that prep work and if you have a bulldozer that can work, then they can put the line in with a bulldozer. So I said, yeah, because I'm always like, yeah, let's get something going here. And so between over the course of a couple days, they had gotten a few bulldozers in and a few harvesting machines, and they're like a excavator type machine but it's got this equipment on it that cuts the trees. So
a giant pair of scissors for small trees?
Well, they're big. They can cut some big trees too. Not giant trees, but yeah, they can cut some pretty good sized trees. Some of them have like a giant chainsaw at the bottom, and they have a thing that grabs the tree on top, and then this big cutter at the bottom. Sometimes they have like a cutter that, imagine like something that's like two blades come down, but that tends to splinter the bottom of the tree, and then they've got some that have big old chainsaw at the bottom that comes across. And then forwarders, and they've got skidders that skid the trees out of the way. So you got to get the trees off of the ground, and then the bulldozer can come in and then put the line in. The bulldozer is pushing the vegetation and the brush down to the soil. Now, oftentimes, depending on where you're at, you got to have a hand crew come in and clean that up, because a lot of times it's too rocky. And so anyway, well, we're going to get to work now. When I'm told, okay, all those dozers over there in the parking area, this is out in someone's pasture, all those dozers and heavy equipment, that's all yours. Take it all.
These are just people that have they got a contract on the spot.
Right. They're local. So from this little town in western Montana, these are all the local guys that do all of the timber work, the timber harvesting. on private land, on state land, on national forest land, and they've got contracts, and you know, they're very experienced out in the woods. But you know, there tend to be anti-government types more so because the government can't do anything right, and if you just let them do it, they'd put the fire out 3 weeks ago. Now I've got this truck that is kind of snazzy, and I think it's kind of snazzy looking. They
Yes.
know I'm from California because I had
Oh.
so so that's not a good thing. I'm female, I'm from California,
Oh.
and I'm driving this tricked out truck. So I didn't think about it at the time, but those were really three strikes against me. Um, that's just the way it is. So so I am driving with my local guide from the local area. She knows all these guys. They're all friends of hers. She grew up in this spot, and she has got a little CB radio that she carries with her, so she can talk because she knows that loggers all talk on their CB. Now we've given them radios to use with all of the fire incident frequencies on them, but um, so that's they're going to be talking on the on their CBs. Now, before we left the parking lot, um, there's this field with all this heavy equipment. Now they're on low boys, those are the trailers behind the semi that carries the tractors and all the forestry equipment. And there's these kind of rough looking characters. They are generally speaking in greasy jeans because when they work on their dozers, they get very oily from cleaning stuff. They have to do lots of maintenance on these things. It's in the dust all day long, so they're always very dirty. And they have to wear the Nomex personal protective equipment. They're required to wear the stuff, but they're dirty, rough characters. Great people, salt of the earth, but they're a little rough. Now, I didn't have anyone. Normally, on a division, if I had, half a dozen or a dozen pieces of equipment, I'd have a couple overhead working for me. I'd have some supervisors that I'd send out with them, call them dozer bosses, or strike team leaders, or someone. I had none. Now, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep a handle on 8 or 10 of these guys out in the woods, and I want to go get them out there. I've given them a briefing. I want them to go out and check things out, and I'm telling them we're going to put a line in between the road and the ridge top, and it's like maybe a couple miles. So we're going to work on this for a few days. So um, go out there and start checking it out. I'm thinking I better put one of them in charge because they're going to be like a bunch of quail out there scattered and doing who knows what. And so they were. I had to pick one of them to be in charge. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, they're a rough looking group. I'm going to put the one who has the most teeth. That's who I'm going to pick to be in charge. So maybe not literally the most teeth, but he looked the most. He looked the most likely that I could talk to. That's probably the closer descriptor of why I picked him. So now this gentleman is now in charge. Now I had some other things I had to go look at. It was going to take them a while to drive down this road, get their dozers unloaded, get their skidders unloaded, and so I thought, well, I told them go out there, get everything unloaded, and then start going up the hill where I flagged it. All you gotta do is follow my flagging. So go ahead and get started. I'll be there. I'll be there in a little while.
Easy, you already flagged it.
Yeah, so it's all clear. So I get out there maybe a couple hours later, and they haven't left. Before I get there now, I'm driving around with my local guide. She's got the CB radio, and I hear this chatter going on the CB, but I'm listening to the incident uh, communications, and I'm not paying attention to what's going on the CB. I've got to, my command rig's got all the radios in it, so I'm listening to what's going on that I need to be hearing about. I don't need to be hearing what's going on the CB. But she hears stuff going on and she's laughing. She's giggling and she's starting to laugh pretty loud. And I'm like, what's going on? And she says, don't you hear what they're saying? I said, no. Who's they? It's the guys that are working for you. I said, oh, well, what are they saying? So she turns up the volume and I hear them talking about Baywatch. Oh, Baywatch is over here. Well, when's Baywatch going to get over there? I'm like, who are they talking about? And she's laughing. They're talking about you. Now, Baywatch. Why would they call me Baywatch? I've never seen the show, except I know that there's some big busty women running around in swimsuits. And so I'm like, why would they be calling me Baywatch? And she says, this truck looks like it's out of Baywatch, and you're female and you're from California. It looks like it came off the beach. It's one of the. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So, um, I wouldn't say I was pissed, but I was just rolling my eyes, going, "Oh, for Pete's sake, these idiots, these nice, great guy idiots, But I was just disappointed. It's like, okay, here we go. Now, earlier in my career, I had dealt with and have dealt with um, guys that were maybe not real respectful to me. And when I was on the fire department, I had a captain who was senior to me at another station, but our two stations ran together a lot, and he wouldn't ever train with me. I was very willing to acquiesce to his authority because he was way senior. I was junior. I was so new as a captain, and I wanted to learn from him. And I was willing to play second fiddle, but he just would never have any of it. And on one fire, he really did something that was really unsafe just to kind of spite me. And I was so pissed. And I went over a couple shifts later. I went over to his station. We came back on duty, and I dropped the F bomb on him like Hiroshima. I was like, I am so fucking done with you. You're so unsafe. I have bent over backwards to work with you. You're a fucking. I mean, I just kind of. I lost it. It was kind of semi-planned because I thought I got to get his opinion or got to get his attention, and that's how I'm going to do it. Well, it did get his attention, and from then on, he was very respectful to me. And so that was in the back of my mind as I am listening to these guys calling me Baywatch. So,
So that guy from the station that you were you were trying to cooperate with
yeah,
him?
I was trying to.
How long was that going on?
Oh, it went on for maybe a year even
Before this.
before I blew
Oh,
up
so
at
you're
him.
trying to cooperate. You're trying.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so that was and then after I called him names really and used the F bomb on him, he was very professional to me after that. He called me up
what the heck?
within I don't know, the next shift he calls me up, hey, you want to get together? We're going to train on the ladder or we're going to go do a drill. I'm like,
I
yeah.
don't understand people.
Well, I know, but that's the way it was. So he so that was in the back of my mind. I had that in my toolbox, or maybe some people might think in my ammo belt. But that was that was something I knew had worked for me.
Sound like we're great.
Well, it worked, but it really makes you feel uneasy when you have to go there. But I've gone there.
If you were working properly for a year,
Oh yeah, no, he didn't like me, and so anyway. So now fast forward however many years it's gone by, and I'm up in western Montana, and these guys are calling me Baywatch. And so I thought, okay, well, I got to get their attention. So I find them parked out in this area. They have not gotten their work. They haven't started working yet.
They started?
No, they haven't started. They've got the dozers off the low boys. They've moved the low boys out of the way, and the dozers, I don't think were even idling. A lot of times they'll be idling, while they're getting ready to go. And so I'm looking for the guy put in charge, the guy with the most teeth. And I see him over there in his truck. And so I walk over. When I parked my truck and got out, these all these loggers, they got out of there away from their dozers and they started walking towards my truck, and I walked over to talk to the fellow that I had put in charge. And I said, "What's going on?" "Well, we weren't sure what we should do." I said, "Let's get started. Here's the plan. I want to go get the, harvesting machines first, then bring in the dozers behind them. Let's get when you make a dozer line, you tend to get big piles of brush and trees. Let's get everything that can be. We had skidders, so they grab onto the trees that were cut down and they pull them and we deck them. We call it. We put the piles of logs into areas that can be then utilized. So we don't waste them. We want them to get utilized. So anyway, so I'm giving him more specific directions, and maybe he didn't quite understand or wasn't quite sure. I'm willing to go there, but I got to make an impact on these guys. So I'm walking back to my truck now. You've seen the picture of my truck on the website, and there's that kind of custom made bumper. Apparently, these guys were very impressed with my bumper. They had their hands, they were all like touching the bumper. Two of them were laying underneath the truck looking at how the bumper, I guess, attached to the frame. They had swarmed my truck. And I thought, okay, well, here's my opportunity to make an impression on these guys. And I said to them in a very stern voice, "Haven't you guys ever seen a fucking bumper? Get your asses up and let's get going." And they looked at me like oh my god, and they like little boys that got caught with their cookie hands in the cookie jar, and they went running off to their dozers and their equipment, and they started them up, and everybody's going. Now my friend who's became my friend, a gal who was the that local guide for me, she started laughing. She thought that was funny. That reaction was funny and all that. And um, so we can start getting work done. Everybody's great. They're respectful. They are getting good work and good progress. And then over the next couple of days, I start getting more resources. I start getting fire crews, and I start getting some overhead. And and I excuse me. I ended up getting in an argument. My listeners may be thinking this is a common theme here, but I got in a little bit of a disagreement with a local biologist that was on the fire. Now, they're called a resource advisor. They're telling you, well, try to avoid this area with your equipment or that area. And this particular resource advisor was really unrealistic about um, what he wanted me to do or not to do, and I kind of got into an argument with him. Like, we were doing good work, we weren't ruining the environment. I mean, yes, we were using all this heavy equipment, but we're using it very judiciously. And now that I've got the hand crews, we're following direction. If he's got a problem with the strategy, talk to the team. Don't the incident management team. Don't come out to my division and complain. But anyway, so I kind of get into a little bit of a heated disagreement with this guy, and all of a sudden his eyes get big, and he starts backing away, walking backwards towards his truck. And I was like, what's going on? And I turn around, and there's all my knucklehead loggers with big sticks
Oh,
and like shovels and axes. It's like they're going to West Side Story Rumble. And I turn around and I'm like, no, no, get back to work. Oh my God. And I was now like, okay, now they're way over the line. I was a little bit over the line. I probably didn't need to be arguing with the guy the way I was. But they saw me having a disagreement with this guy, and by God, they're going to stick up for me, you know, because I don't know why. Because they liked me. They thought I was doing a good job. Because they thought, I was getting the job done, and this knucklehead was trying to stop me from getting the job done. And so I get everybody back, and I'm feeling really bad. I'm feeling like, oh, I really stepped over the line. I shouldn't have had this argument. These guys should have never started coming out like they were ready to rumble.
Off their equipment.
Yeah, because there was two of these other local biologists that were there, and I don't know. They thought these loggers thought that they were going to stick up for me, and it's like, well, I appreciate that, but put the sticks down and the axe and the big metal rods and all that. We're like I said, we're not in West Side Story. This isn't
Western Montana.
Yeah. So by that point, I have some strike team leaders working for me. Those are like the leadership that works directly for me, and they're supervising all the hand crews and the loggers and all that sort of thing. And we ended up, now the fire is down where we are. Okay, now remember when I first got there, the fire was way up the hill, and so now the fire is down where we are. We're actually fighting fire now, because the first week we were just prepping for the fire. Now we're fighting the fire, and this instance with these local biologists happened when we started fighting the fire, and one of my strike team leaders says to me, I don't know what went on before I got here, but these loggers, they would follow you into hell.
Oh, wow.
He said, yeah, they'd follow you into hell. And I was like, I don't know. They're good guys. I had to yell at them the first time when they first got here, and so it was a great assignment. We got good work done. I made friends with some of them, where I talked to them for years afterwards.
Of the loggers?
Yeah. So I guess this is one of those situations where, would I recommend people drop the F-bomb on employees of theirs? No, I certainly wouldn't. Now, if your employees are loggers or other folks who tend to be kind of in more of a blue collar thing, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying what I did. Now, what I did might not have been right. There might have been, and probably I assume was a better way to handle it. But I'm telling you my story here, because every situation is different. That when we're supervising people or being supervised or dealing with whoever, the neighbors, whatever it is, the circumstances are always different. And even with the same circumstances, but if you put a different person in it, before I started telling the story, I told John, I said, if you were in this situation, it would have been a different dynamic. They wouldn't have been calling you Baywatch. And you would not have known instantly when you heard that these guys don't have respect for you. And so the same circumstances with different players would be handled completely different. But for these circumstances with the people I had involved, including me, that was like the best option I thought I had, and it turned out to be perfect, because when my strike team leaders told me, "Man, those guys would march into hell or follow you into hell. I don't know what's going on here, but they sure have a lot of respect for you." Well, that was affirming to me. But like I said, I don't want to profess that that's the best. That's the best.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that situation years before.
Yeah.
Where you'd been with that, you saw over a year or more, or whatever, where it led. It wasn't. You were reacting to that. It's like, I know where this is leading. It's not going anywhere. I got to stop it.
Right. And so, one of these days I'll tell a story about when I was working at 9/11, and I've told bits and pieces of two of the stories from 9/11, but I'll tell a story about having to go to the F-bomb to get the attention of people, and it's the same kind of folks. It might have been New York City and not Western Montana, but it was
two different West Side
stories. But it's the same kind of situation. So this is the leadership issue, is that you have to figure out the best way that's going to work for you. because the way I handle a situation versus the way John would handle a situation versus the way anyone else would handle a situation, you can't apply the same rule for different people, even in the same circumstances.
Sounds like you handled it pretty spectacularly.
Well, I hate to think that we can't judge success based on what was the outcome. Or, I mean, what was it the right alternative? Well, there might have been a better alternative, but that one had worked for me before, so I pulled it out of the hat again. Um, and I'm hoping now that I'm retired, I don't have to use that alternative anymore. I can just smile and say knuckleheads and walk away. Anyway, that's the end of the story. I hope you folks found it interesting. Don't think less of me because I resort to the F-bomb. It's a tool that I've used, and I'll probably not have to use it again, but I've used it a few times in my career that way. Hope you guys enjoy the time you spend. As of a couple days ago, there were 50,000 story downloads at bobbyonfire.com. So I'm glad you don't apparently have enough to keep yourselves busy with something productive and you're listening to my stories, and thank God for it. So I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll post another story next week. Thanks very much.
Take care.